My name is Terry, and I will be your host for today's podcast, video cast, vlog. Not really a vlog. I don't really know what it is. Anyway, I've been calling it a podcast because that's what we do. Seems like most knitters call them that. We talk a little bit about knitting, a little bit about yarn, a little bit about project bags and other things yarn related. Today I'm going to bring up something that's really, really exciting, so stay tuned for that. So my name is Terry. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for all the returning viewers. I really appreciate your time. I love that you join me here on this little corner of the internet. I spend, a couple of hours recording this and editing this just so that I can be connected to the world outside of my home that is knitting related. I love this journey. I'm really enjoying myself. If you're new here, please feel free to go back and have a look at all the other stories I've told and projects I've done or started and not done and all of the things in between. I have said this in my previous episode. I'm from Newfoundland, and a lot of my language around my segments will reflect that. I will not explain what each of those means. You'll sort of get the hint. It's your typical stuff. It's a whip, it's a finished object, it's a dream knit or what have you. But yeah, I will use some Newfoundland terminology for that. If you notice, you can probably see I have a big scar on my chest. I'm a cancer survivor as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But if you want to hear any more of my story or any of the other things that I chat about, there's 26 other episodes, plus a vlogmas and a couple of other extra episodes that are not really episodes, smattering in between. So feel free to go back and do that. I currently live and hang out with my family and our friends in central Alberta, Canada. About an hour-ish north of Calgary. I am an avid knitter, have been since I was about 8 years old, and that's it. So for those of you that know me or that have been here a little while, sorry about the long-winded intro. I just felt like chatting a little bit today. I usually keep my show notes just down here, so I will refer to those. You'll see me sort of looking down to the floor. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. And being a cancer survivor, you may notice that I will forget words, forget where I'm going, be all over the place. If that happens, I will apologize in advance. But again, really happy that you've joined me today and hope you stick around. I will also, I don't do this in every video, but go ahead and say, like the video, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things so that the algorithm knows that you're interested and that I'm interesting. Unless, of course, you don't think so, in which case, don't do any of those things. That's fine, too. Right. So I mentioned that I am from Canada. I mentioned that I am a cancer survivor. Today, if you're watching this relatively recent, like in real time, it's February 12th, 2026. And February marks the Knit Every Day in February challenge that is hosted by the Canadian Cancer Society. The Canadian Cancer Society is a nonprofit organization that raises funds for Canadian cancer research. And like I said, being a cancer survivor, I won't tell you the whole story, but I've had cancer, 2 different types of cancer, another recurrence, so I've had my fair share of a journey there. So I decided, being a knitter, being a cancer survivor, I might as well join in on this journey. So it started on February 1st. I have a few things that I want to talk about, but I do have a few projects that I have been working on throughout that journey. I won't share them all here. Some of them will show up in What Are You At? One of them shows up in Yes By. And yeah, so if I don't have, I know for sure one item I don't actually have because I've given it to the yarn merchant, which again you'll hear me talk about in a minute, because it was a shop sample, so I'll put a photo up and all those sorts of things. I put the name of the pattern and the designer down below, as well as I will put links to things in the description box, which you can find right below this video. I will put my contact information, my Goodreads, anything that comes up today in that And if any of that fails, you can always reach out to me, which, like I say, the contact information will be down below. All right, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was the Knit Every Day in February challenge, which I have put the link in the description box below. The Knit Every Day in February challenge, you know, there's all kinds of things that go around, you know, do 10,000 steps a day, do 1,000 push-ups in February, or, you know, all those types of things. Being that my physical self is not as capable as it once was, I decided that knitting would be an opportunity. I actually just came home from knit night one evening, and I think maybe it showed up on my For You page on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. So I clicked on it and signed up right there. So I will have put a link down below in the description box where, if you choose to, you can click on that link and you can donate to the Canadian Cancer Society through my fundraising link. All the proceeds obviously go to the Canadian Cancer Society, and yeah, I've hit my goal already, which I'm super proud about, but I would love to blow that goal out of the water. So yeah, feel free, go down, click the link, and if you don't want to, that's also fine. If you can't support financially, maybe like the post or share it or something like that. However you feel you can support, if that is something that you would like to do. The next thing that I usually talk about is which is what I'm wearing. I am literally wearing nothing knit today. I don't have socks on, I don't have a shirt, like a sweater, nothing. I am absolutely melting with heat. I have been for the last little while. I went to see my doctor yesterday. Thanks to medically induced menopause, I am just dealing with a bunch of different stuff, and hot flashes are one of them, and today is no exception. So I'm not wearing anything today in knitwear. I've made up for that in projects that I'm working on, so don't fret. There will be knitwear to be discussed. What are you at? So What Are You At is the segment where we talk about works in progress. I have a few. Like I said, I've been working on the Knit Every Day in February, so I've got 12 days of knitting plus the 2 days before. I think my last podcast was posted just the end of January, so I've got at least 2 weeks of knitting to share with you. I'm really excited to do that. The first thing I've got all of my sort of bags of projects right here. I'm just going to sort of grab and explain what it is as whatever's on top. So the first thing, this is a bag that was made by Creek Gardens Crafts, and I purchased it at, I think I purchased it at Polkadot Creek storefront. It might have been before she had a storefront, actually, and I might have ordered it online and picked it up. Honestly, I don't remember, but it was, there was a yarn shop in Airdrie, Alberta that was called Willow and Wool, and they had a beautiful logo. They had some gorgeous colors, and Polkadot Creek made a Willow and Wool sock set with those colors and a bag that went with it. So this is the bag that came with it. I don't have the sock set handy, or I would show that to you. But inside this bag is the Linus shawl. The Linus shawl I've been working on for a little bit. It's pretty repetitive. It's just back and forth knitting with a couple, you know, an increase here and a decrease there. I am making this for my doctor. Again, if you're new here, you wouldn't know this, but my family doctor is a lifesaver, literally. So she loves pink, so I decided I would make her a shawl. I was going to make it for her for Christmas, but as you all know, time gets away from you, and she was actually in a very warm climate at Christmas. She was away on vacation, so I didn't get it made, and it didn't quite matter anyway because she was going to be in warm places, so she wouldn't have been able to wear it. But this is the Linus shawl. It's made with Polkadot Creek. Again, it's a sock set. I've had it for years. I think it was a Valentine's Day sock set that Polkadot Creek put out several years ago. Shelley, if you're watching, you can probably tell me how many years ago it was, but there's this sort of dark fuchsia pink with a speckled color, and I'm really, there's a 20, I think it's a 10 or 20 gram skein of the dark pink, and 100-gram skein of the speckled. So I'm knitting just chunks, just doing color blocking and throwing in a stripe here and there or a chunk every now and then. So that is the Linus shawl. I'm coming along. I don't know where it was the last time I showed you because I've been changing my progress keeper every day if I knit on it so that I can show the progress on my Knit Every Day in February Instagram page. I'm using my personal page for that as opposed to the One Lonely Owl Instagram. Quite honestly, I don't really know why. Probably because a lot of the people that know me and know my cancer journey have followed me through my personal page as opposed to One Lonely Owl. So maybe what I'll do is I'll post a couple of updates on One Lonely Owl as well, just so that you, if you choose and you want to follow me on Instagram, then you can do that. Anyway, so the Linus shawl, the pattern is by Annett. Oh my gosh, how many weeks have I talked about this pattern? Anyway, I'll have written it below and it will be linked in the description box below, but it's a free pattern on Ravelry. Like I said, it's a sort of an elongated triangular shawl where you knit on, knit each row. It's just garter stitch, but you increase on one side, decrease on the other sort of thing. So this is where we're at. It's starting to grow, which feels really good. It's really difficult when you are working away on it because we're starting to get up into the hundreds of stitches where you're working away on it and then you look down and your stitch marker is barely moved. Your progress keeper is barely moved. Like I think I did 2 or 3 rows yesterday, maybe 2, and it felt like it took forever, but it doesn't look like I got anywhere. Anyway, still working away on that. The Linus shawl by Annett. It might be Annett Cordes, I believe, is how you pronounce her name. So this is my family doctor's shawl that I will finish when I finish and give it to her when it's done. Unfortunately, it'll probably be spring by the time it's done by the progress that I'm getting now. And that lives in this Creeks Gardens Crafts little mini project bag. I think she intended them to be sock bags, but it works for that shawl. As, being a one skein shawl. All right, next, again, just grabbing whatever is close. Oh, this one. So this is the Schitt's Creek update that Ginger Snap did. Oh my goodness. Several years ago. I wouldn't be able to tell you, but it came with a bag, yarn, stickers. I obviously, again, if you're new here, you wouldn't know this, but I love Schitt's Creek and had to have it, and I'm so glad. Little quick side note, extremely sad when I found out that Catherine O'Hara, who is one of my favorite actresses, passed away recently. There's nothing I can say. She was an absolute legend, and yeah, loved her in Schitt's Creek, obviously. Also loved her in most of the work that she did, but if you haven't seen the Best in Show, go do yourself a favor. Absolutely hilarious. Anyway, this is a Rikarumi book that I purchased at the Yarn Merchant. I mentioned briefly the Yarn Merchant earlier. The Yarn Merchant is what I consider my local yarn shop. I have a couple of weekends ago, I took my daughter out for a little girl date. We went out and had to run a few errands, and we ran into the yarn shop because I had to pick up some cords for some interchangeable needles. So I left my daughter for 2 minutes by herself, and she comes to me with this book. So it's The Lovely World of Rikarumi, Uni, Furry, and Nilly Furry Animals. If you've noticed, there's a little guy right here. My daughter loves giraffes, and she found this and immediately then decided that I needed to make the giraffe for her. So that's what I'm working on, is the giraffe from the Rikarumi Furry, and I'll show you what I've got completed, and I'm going to tell you, it doesn't look like a lot, but this has been a giant pain in my behind. The yarn is lovely, the pattern is really well written, I don't have any complaints about that. What I have a complaint about is the fact that I am now over 45 and my eyes don't work like they used to. So if you can relate, you know, go below and tell me what pattern it is or what yarn that you choose that that you struggle with, because I literally have had to crochet this in front of a window so that I can see through where the holes are because of the fuzzy yarn. So this is the giraffe's head. I'm going to try not to have it focus on my face. I don't think that worked. Maybe that. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's fuzzy. So even if it didn't focus, even if it did focus, it would look fuzzy anyway. So you start out, you know, and you crochet sort of, I guess what you'd call the nose, and then the head, and you put the safety eyes in and you stuff it and you close it up, and then you add the ears and the ossicones. I have not had the patience to sit and do the ears and the ossicones because this little thing, which is the size of, you know, my hand, took forever. The fuzz, so I'll show you the yarn. The fuzz on the yarn is so, I guess you would say, like, dense. It's a lace weight yarn. Actually, I assume it's considered a lace weight yarn, but maybe it's not because it's fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that, but it is not only difficult to see, but it is so, like, it's really soft and slippery. So when you're trying to work with it, you know, my hands just don't work as quickly as they do with, say, a cotton yarn. The cotton yarn Rickarumi, I mean, if you have used any of these products before, you already know this, but it is so lovely. I really enjoy working with cotton. I know a lot of people don't, but this is the yellow sort of color, and that's probably not true to color because yellows and greens are hard to see, but it's really cute, and the little nuggets that they come in, the little peanuts, are so fun. Like I said, I bought all of this at the Yarn Merchant, which is in Didsbury, and I'll link everything below. So if you are looking for this product and you're semi-local, or even if you're not, I know that they can ship to you. This one is probably my favorite though. So this is the Nilly Nilly DK, and I bought this. It's only used for like his little cheeks, which are kind of the last thing to go in, but it's this sort of tiny chenille. Oh, it's so cute. So I can't wait to get to that. But it is so soft. You know, the cotton feels wonderful. The chenille feels really nice. And, I mean, the fuzzy one, the furry, I think it's called, is quite lovely. Working with it is so hard for my little eyes to see. So, like I said, I have to use a window almost as a backdrop so that I can see through and see the holes so I know where I'm going. But I did promise my daughter that I would finish that for her, so I will be working on that as soon as I can. So that is the giraffe. I think he's just called the giraffe. Giraffe Head. Giraffe Head by Rickarumi Rico Designs. There we go. Whoop. And again, I got this pattern book also at the Yarn Merchant. So that was living in my Schitt's Creek bag by Ginger Snap. Ginger Snap. Yeah, Ginger Snap and Mr. Snap that. I always get that mixed up. So that's number 2. Number 3 is living in my So Shannon Harry Potter bag. So Shannon is absolutely one of my favorite bag makers. It's So Shannon. She doesn't put these on her bags anymore, I don't think. She ran out. But that's So Shannon. So she's at So Shannon YYC. I think maybe she's taking a little bit of a break maybe from bag making. I know she makes a whole bunch of other things, but yeah, Shannon is, again, the community, the yarn community seems to be pretty small in central Alberta, southern Alberta where I live, and Shannon is just lovely. So if you have an opportunity to reach out to her or buy something from her on Etsy, feel free to go ahead and do that, because I do know that she ships as well. The next pattern that I'm working on is the Flax Sock. if you are new here, you would not have heard me talk about tin can knits. If you are not new here, you're probably sick of hearing me talk about tin can knits. Tin can knits are one of my favorite design teams. They have some absolutely beautiful patterns. They have an exceptional website and app, so you can use the application on your phone to follow along with your patterns. If you don't have it, I'm pretty sure the app is free, and if you've purchased the patterns, they will automatically, because I think you have to link it to your Ravelry somehow. I haven't used it in a little while because I'm old school. I like paper patterns. But yeah, it's phenomenal. You can follow along. You can see the whole pattern. You can just put your size, and your size numbers will be the only ones that show. It's so great. So I could sit here and this could be the Tin Can Knits podcast because I could talk about them for days. But I'm currently working on the Flax Sock. I am doing the 1 to 2 year size. That's the other thing about Tin Can Knits patterns, is that they're very, very, very size inclusive. I think the Flax Sock goes from 0 to 6 months all the way up to 6XL. So I don't even know how many sizes that is. 14, 17, something like that. So this, however, I've made some modifications, and I didn't make these modifications. Well, I did, because it's a different size pattern, but I will put the user below on Ravelry who had initially done this, and I talked about it in my previous episode. This person took the Flax Sock and then modified it, which is a pullover, and modified it to be a cardigan. And then I'm just sort of following the steps that that person did. I think they did the 6 to 12 month size, and I'm doing the 1 to 2 year size. I'm also doing it the same yarn that that individual had done, the user on Ravelry that modified the Flax Sock to be a cardigan, used Gauge Dyeworks Whiskey in a Teacup. And of course I don't have the ball band here, but Gauge Dyeworks Whiskey in a Teacup is the most adorable. It's sort of a muted rainbow. There we go, if you can see all the colors. See if I can get it so you can see all the colors. Absolutely obsessed with this little sweater. You can see a lifeline here and a sort of a progress keeper, a stitch marker being used as a project keeper. I had been knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting because I was knitting for Knit Every Day in February, and I forgot to split for the sleeves. So I went back in with a darning needle and some scrap yarn, and I picked up a lifeline and I ripped back and then put the sleeves stitches back on hold so that I could continue on with the body. So the sleeve stitches are now on hold, and I'm, you know, an inch or two down, a couple of centimeters down the underneath the armpit. I've said this before, the skein of Gauge Dyeworks is actually technically only enough for the 6 to 12 month Flax Sock. I have 2 skeins of this, where my plan was to knit as much as I could, get as much done as I could, as long as I could with the sleeves, as much done as I could. And if I had to, I would break into the second skein. I haven't decided if I do that, if I'm going to do the rainbow section, or if I'll just break into the gray section of that skein and then leave the leftovers and maybe make a 0 to 6 month size or something for the next baby. But really, really loving this. I love when the colors were striping. I love just watching them show up. I gotta say, I was very disappointed when I got so far. I thought, something doesn't feel right, and I looked back at the pattern and it went, oh, yeah, no, 2-3 inches ago you were supposed to split for the sleeves, and I totally forgot. So anyway, we're now on track, and yeah, back on track and making some progress. I don't know if I've talked about my Kollage needles before. I think I have. Kollage is a Canadian company. If you can't tell, I'm very proudly Canadian, and I use as many Canadian products as I can, including yarn, needles, whoever. Kollage is a company, I believe they're in Ontario, and they make square needles. A little while back, I had some really unfortunate side effects from the immunotherapy treatment that I was going through, and my hands were basically, they would balloon up in the daytime, especially in the morning, and I wouldn't be able to grip my needles to do anything. And if you're a knitter, you probably understand when I say that knitting was my outlet a lot of the time when I was dealing with, you know, emotional struggle or physical struggle even. You know, it was helping me to get, as she says in the last homely house, Kate, bless her, get out of your head and into your hands. I absolutely relate to that. So I was really needing a solution when I wasn't able to knit with my regular needles. So I purchased an interchangeable set of Kollage squares. Don't know what they're called. I think they're just Kollage square needles. And I absolutely love them. I love the cord. I love the square needle. I think the join could be a little bit better. It does hook every once in a while. Not anything that I would complain massively about. I was knitting on a shawl and the connection, it disconnected from the needle. All I had to do was pick the stitches back up and put it back on, but I was nervous about that. But I will say I do enjoy these needles, and the squareness has really helped with the arthritic symptoms that I've been having. These stitch markers I just got at, not stitch markers rather, stitch stoppers I got at the Yarn Merchant. Again, a yarn shop in Didsbury, Alberta, Canada, and all of the information will be linked below. So that is the Gauge Dyeworks Whiskey in a Teacup in fingering weight. I didn't mention that. Kollage square knitting needles. I'm using the interchangeable set. And a So Shannon project bag. All Canadian. How lovely is that? And if you're not Canadian, welcome. I mean, the Canadians are welcome as well, but I assume nobody watches this but my friends and family. I think we're on to the last work in progress. So the last work in progress is a sample knit that I'm knitting for the Yarn Merchant. I've talked about the Yarn Merchant at length in previous episodes and a lot here as well. They are a local yarn shop to me. They are wonderful people, an absolute joy to be around. It's where I've joined my knitting guild, so the Yarn Merchant Knitting Guild is where I go to spend time with like-minded people. I really enjoy their company. And I have offered, if ever they need anything sample knit, I'm going to be knitting anyway. And you've seen, I barely wear knitwear anymore because I'm always hot. So why not spread the love and make something and that somebody can use? So I am making a sweater for the Yarn Merchant. And I'm going to go into the sweater and then I'll talk about the bag. So the sweater is King Cole. It's called Aran raglan sleeve. It's very simple, but it's King Cole, and the yarn that I'm using is Firefly. So I'm going to try to cover up my face and then I'll show you the sweater afterwards. So this is kind of like a black and silver. You can kind of see the iridescence. It's got a bit of a halo. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but there's a bit of a halo there. And like I said, it's black and silver and sort of iridescent. It's an Aran weight. It's made by King Cole and the label is Firefly. The colorway is called shade 6577 and it's Harlequin Beetle. So, and if you're interested at the Yarn Merchant, effective February 2026, it's $12.99 a ball. I am making this sweater, not in this colorway. Again, it's just a raglan sleeve, short sleeve cardigan. The reason I'm making the cardigan is if ever I make a sweater, I don't believe I'll ever make a pullover again because I just can't handle the heat. And the Yarn Merchant is actually manufacturing, I guess you can call it manufacturing, hand making buttons. So we wanted to showcase the yarn, the pattern, and the buttons as well. So I'll be knitting that, and then once it's all completed, we'll decide on some buttons to go on the front of that. So now for the progress. Again, with the Kollage needles, I'm using the Kollage needles in most situations, I think. If I'm not doing magic loop, which I'm not doing on the Flax Sock, but if I'm not doing magic loop, I can use the stiff cords that come with the Kollage needles. I do not use the stiff cords if I'm doing magic loop. I use the loose ones for that. I don't dislike the stiff cords when I'm knitting flat, but they're not my favorite. I would much prefer the softer cords for that. It's kind of, if you're familiar with ChowGoo, the soft cord is much softer than the ChowGoo cords, and the stiff cord for Kollage is much stiffer than the ChowGoo cords. But I don't have any problems with the stiff cord. I just would prefer the soft one, I think. Anyway, so this is the progress I've made. I don't know, what's that? 2 centimeters, 2.5, maybe 3 centimeters worth, an inch and a bit of ribbing done. It's 2x2 rib on the pattern. Again, not sure if you can really see that, but 2x2 rib. I haven't gotten very far, and I've stolen, I don't know if you've seen any other bread tags on any of my items, but I've stolen Taylor Earl from Wool Needles Hands podcast uses the bread tag when she's got an extra long tail and she doesn't want to have the tail just sort of hanging in the wind. So I've stolen her idea, and it works wonderfully. So that is the sweater. It's a cardigan by King Cole with Aran weight, and it's made with Firefly. I just realized I have one more work in progress to show you before I talk about this bag. I've thrown it in here as well. So this is the sock that we're doing as part of a sock class with the Yarn Merchant. We have a knit along going where we're gonna, for most people, gonna knit their very first sock. And this is being knit with Estelle Sudz. Again, I don't need socks, so Lori asked me to knit a pair of socks out of cotton, and she provided the yarn, obviously, because it was going to be for the class rather than for me, so it's for teaching purposes. So I've been knitting. We have the cuff completed, we have the heel flap completed, and then last week we picked up for the gusset. So tonight we will be working on the gusset. I probably won't be going tonight. Bit of a life update. I haven't been feeling the best, so I will likely be staying at home just in case I am contagious. So the heel flap, and then like I said, we've picked up for the gusset. I have not knit the gusset yet, but I think the last time you guys saw this, it might have just been a cuff. So we are now on to picked up stitches for the gusset, and then we're going to be starting the decreases to get back down to the 40 stitches. This pattern is the Easy Peasy sock by Stacey Trock. Like I said, I'm knitting it in a cotton. We're doing this for teaching purposes. The first sock that I made a couple of episodes back, I think I showed you that, it was knit on US size 5s. When reading the pattern, I read US size 5s, and Lori, the owner of the shop, read 5mm. So we had a bunch of, and it didn't say anywhere, it just said with size 5 needles, do such and such. So Lori picked up 5mm needles, and I picked up US 5s. So I actually knit the first sock on a US 5, which is the 3.75mm needle, and we're knitting this one on a 5mm needle, which is a US 8, I believe. And again, with the eyes, I cannot see. Yeah, US 8 5mm needle. So we're actually doing that with the intention of discussing gauge and how important it is for you to knit to gauge. Also how to read the pattern and be diligent about reading the pattern before you get started, because this one is going to be massive in comparison to the other. It's going to use up a fair bit more yarn, and it quite honestly won't likely fit my foot. It'll be for a foot that's quite a lot larger than mine. So yeah, working away on that. Like I said, I probably won't be going to knit night tonight for the class, mostly because I just don't want to get anybody sick if I happen to be contagious. I'll leave you the details. I'll spare you the details. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about when discussing this little gem in my lap was the bag itself. So this knitting bag, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Canmore Fiber, what was it called? The Fiber Folk Mini Marketplace. I'm going to talk a little bit about later on in Best Kind. But this bag comes from the Netherlands. I'm pretty sure it's the Netherlands. From a maker called Pinkhazel. Again, I'll put the website here and then I'll link everything I discuss in the description box below. This is a canvas knitting bag. It's a roll top, so I'll show you how it works. I'll take off. So I purchased the shoulder strap, the crossbody shoulder strap separately. And the reason I did that is because I'm always going somewhere with 12 different things. I've got, you know, my backpack with my water bottle and my wallet and medications and other things, and then I've got my knitting bag and I've got maybe my e-reader or whatever, so I got the crossbody strap to go with it. She didn't have any matching ones left, but she had this beautiful green, and I said to her my favorite color is green, so that works well in my case anyway. But you get the bag and it comes with these 2 snaps, and you know, you snap them together, and then you can roll the top down and then clip the 2 sides together, and it makes a little handle. Sorry, there's a pattern inside, so it's sort of stiff. And then it makes a little handle that you can carry, or you can hook it on. Like in my case, I can just hook it onto my backpack or what have you, and then I can move on. I cannot tell you how well this bag is made. It looks like it was manufactured in a factory. It is so well made, so well done. I watched her Instagram, I think it was a reel or a story or whatever it was. I don't know how Instagram works, where she shows how she puts the printing on, how she paints the front with like a giant stamp and a brad, and she rolls the paint on. Anyway, absolutely wonderful. She was also quite lovely just to stand and chat to. But I specifically went to Canmore to see if I could purchase. She had a denim bag made specifically for the Canmore Fiber Folk Mini Marketplace. She had them specifically for the retreat that they were having in Canmore for that weekend. And although I was there very early, when they opened it to the public, they were already gone. So I got this one, which I'm so excited I purchased. I love it. It's totally my jam. You know, the muted brown color, the green strap, loving it, absolutely loving it. So again, that is the, I forget what it's called, the roll top bag by Pinkhazel. And again, I'll have put her info here and then linked everything in the description box. So this way. Absolutely love this bag. I have a feeling this bag is going to be my new sort of go-to for almost everything. Like, I'm going to throw everything in here. It is wonderful. It's made of canvas. I don't know if you could tell by looking at it, but it is made of canvas. Let's see, make sure I've done everything. Oh, I do have one more. I'm going to have to take a photo of it, and I'll insert the photo here. Spoiler alert, I'm now going to talk about the thing that I said that I was going to leave sort of closer to the end. I purchased a secondhand Ashford rigid Heddle loom. I'll sort of explain how I got there. I fell in love with Stranded Dyeworks, who no longer dyes. Jude actually has a wonderful, my favorite, hi Jude, absolutely wonderful, my favorite YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel called Rewilding Jude. So instead of dyeing yarn, he now is renovating his cottage in northeastern Scotland, I think. Anyway, like everything, I'll have it all linked below, but Jude used to dye yarn as a job, and I was obsessed with Stranded Dyeworks at the time, and he purchased a rigid Heddle loom for his mum for her birthday, I believe, several years ago. She has since passed away, which is absolutely devastating. When you're following somebody along and you feel like you start to get to know them, his mum included. I obviously don't know him, didn't know them at all at the time, still don't know them, just have been following his YouTube journey. She had made him a scarf, and long story short, he had lost the scarf, she made him another one, and ever since I've seen the work that, her nickname was the Stranded Elf. She would help Jude with all of the yarn related things and get his packages out and all that sort of stuff. But ever since then, I've been following along. Years and years ago, I decided I wanted a rigid Heddle loom. So that's what I said was going to be the short version, but is a long version. So I purchased a rigid Heddle loom. I found one secondhand. It was located in Canada. I had it shipped to me. It is a 48-inch loom, which is quite large. A lot larger than what I really needed for to begin with, but it just made sense. So I purchased it, and now I've been working on doing a basic weave to make myself just a scarf, not even myself, whoever wants it, just practicing the weaving. I had to practice the warping and all that sort of stuff. I think I warped it backwards, but I made it work, so I'm still able to finish the project. Loving it. I did a little bit of reorganizing. You can't see it, but if you were to see the outskirts of the frame, there's piles, literal piles of stuff everywhere. My loom is sitting right there. So I will take a photo and I will post the photo here of the work in progress, the basic loom, the basic weave scarf that I am weaving at the moment. I'm using some really deep stash. It's acrylic. It's from literal decades ago, and just using it because it's cheap, easy. If it turns out to be terrible, I won't worry about wasting. I can give it away or do whatever. I'm not going to worry about wasting $300 worth of yarn in a scarf that turns out terribly. Absolutely loving the weaving. I will say it is harder than I expected, and I don't think weaving is difficult specifically, because once you get the hang of like certain steps and what you do first and then next and whatever, physically, because it's a 4-foot loom, it has 4-foot shuttle sticks. So I tried to make a smaller shuttle stick at home. I did order some from the yarn merchant, so Lori will have those once her Ashford order comes in. But weaving with a 4-foot shuttle stick when I've only got 11 inches of product in front of me is quite the challenge, and it can get heavy, and like it's far away from you, and it forces you to sort of reach far distances, but I'm absolutely loving it. Like I said, I would have already posted a photo of my work in progress up here. I will keep that in sort of in circulation. I'll keep you up to date on how those things go just as much as I will on the knitting. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Can't wait to finish this one so that I can try something else. I have 7 DPI and a 15 DPI, I think, which means like how many... I am very, very, very green at this, so apologies, but like how many holes and how many slots are in the Heddle. So the larger the number, the smaller the holes and things, so like the smaller yarn you can use. So right now I'm kind of doing like, I don't know, a worsted weight or Aran weight or something like that. It's probably worsted. Loving it, having a great time, and yeah, I won't bore you any further with that. Let's see. Normally I would talk about twacking. Twacking is where I talk about things that I have purchased. So I've already talked about the pink hazel bag, so that's obviously number 1 on the list. I just recently talked just now about the loom. Pardon me. And then I do have a haul from the yarn merchant. I went there. They've got a spectacular selection of yarn, and some of it is just meant for weaving. There's a bunch of different cool things with cotton. There's all kinds of different cottons, Estelle and Circulo and Rickarumi and all that sort of thing. So I bought a bunch of stuff to try to use for weaving for cotton, because that was one of the things that I wanted to do. And yeah, I'm not going to show that because it's just big bags of cotton basically, but you will see the yarn as we go through and I start using it on the loom. But that's mostly what I purchased the cotton for. Now to once is where we talk about what I'm going to be doing in the future. I've got a boatload of projects on the go, so my focus right now is just to finish those. I'm going to slowly work away on each one, and like I said, the knit every day in February is keeping me honest, so I have literally knit at least one row. I think yesterday, the 11th, was the first day that I had knit like the least amount. I think I knit 2 rows on my shawl, and that was it. And again, talking a little bit, I haven't been feeling very good, so yesterday was a little bit of a struggle, so I ended up just knitting 2 rows, but I did knit, so that was it fulfilled my obligation to knit every day in February, so far anyway. Jigs and reels, I talk about this in previous episodes. I won't talk about the books I read because, quite honestly, I can't remember from one time to the next what I've read and what I haven't and what I'm in the middle of and what I've finished. I will, like I say, link my Goodreads in the description box if you want to follow along, if you want to have an idea of what it is that I like and what I don't like. All of my Goodreads, I will at least say that I finished it and give them a star rating. I don't always put a detailed review, and my reviews when I do them they're not like literary worthy. It's, I liked this should have come with a trigger warning, I really enjoyed the characters, but the story was crap. Like, it's not, I'm not really into big, really thoughtful reviews. For sort of in a nutshell, I really love historical fiction. I do like to dabble in a mystery every once in a while. I read a lot of World War II fiction, nonfiction. I read book club books, so I'm part of a book club at my local library, and I read whatever we have for that, which can be anything from anything, like thriller, all that kind of stuff. So I will read pretty much anything, and I document all of that in my Goodreads. So if you're interested in following along on my reading journey, or if you want any of my opinions on any of that stuff, so go ahead, take a look at my Goodreads page, which is linked in the description box. The music I've been listening to with the Loom, I literally have right here, I have sort of like, I have a desk and a fireplace and a television just here and a little bit of exercise equipment right there. It sounds like this room is massive. It really, I mean, it's not a small room, but there's a lot of stuff piled on top of each other. But I can sit and listen to things on YouTube. So the other day I was listening to some old school Dave Matthews, like some late 90s, early 2000s Dave Matthews, and I absolutely just got lost. I enjoyed myself immensely. So much so that I actually was thinking about trying to go to the Gorge this Labor Day weekend in September. That's to be determined, but we'll see. Best Kind is the segment I will share that we talk about things that lift me up and that fill up my cup. So I mentioned earlier the Canmore Fiber the Canmore Fiber Folk Mini Marketplace, which was on February the 8th. Myself and Lori from the Yarn Merchant took both of my kids, and we went out there. Like I said, I specifically went out to look at and to ideally purchase a pink hazel bag, which I did. And I met Tracy and Jody from the Grocery Girls. If you are not familiar with the Grocery Girls and you are a knitter, you probably don't watch many podcasts because they are everywhere in the knitting world. Tracy and Jody have been sort of a staple in my cancer journey. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I mean, I would have 6-hour infusion appointments at the cancer center in Calgary, and I would just sit there and watch podcasts. And Tracy and Jody they've just, like, figuratively been there for me throughout the entire thing. So it was a joy to actually meet them and get to say hi and get to say thank you. They were as lovely in person as they seem to be on their YouTube channel. They seem very, what's the word? authentic. So I was really happy to have that opportunity. And if you are watching, hi Jody, hi Tracy, thanks so much for being such wonderful support throughout my cancer journey, and it was lovely to meet you this past weekend. Yeah, so that's what really filled up my cup. I know yarn and yarn related things generally fill up my cup, but it doesn't always. It was, I don't know, I think it was the combination of the fact that we drove out together, my kids were there, we had some nice fresh air, we went for a short little walk, we indulged in a little bit of knitting. As we were driving, I drove up, obviously because I was driving with my kids, so we needed the car seats, so Lori was knitting in the passenger seat. We just sort of chatted and enjoyed each other's company and got to know each other kind of outside of the yarn world and outside of her business. Her and I have a ton of things in common, so it was just really fun and interesting, and I just enjoyed myself immensely. So had a wonderful time, felt really rejuvenated when I came home, and even though I haven't been feeling the best of late, that was something just to sort of pump my tires a little bit. Filled up my cup, my proverbial cup. Well, that's it. That's all I've got for today. If I've forgotten anything, I will talk about it in the next episode, whenever that might be. I will not commit to, but I do attempt to do a recording every 2 weeks and save any issues with editing, get it up a day or two after that. But I have had many a time where I've said that I will see you in 2 weeks and then 3 months goes by. So I will attempt to stay on a schedule, but I won't promise anything. I do appreciate you being here. I really enjoy all of the things that we get up to in this community, and this is no exception. Me sitting here literally by myself talking to a camera feels a little bit odd, but then when we interact with one another and knowing the impact that some YouTube channels like the Grocery Girls have had on me, I wonder if I might share something with you. So thank you so much for joining me. Go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications, do all the YouTube thing, and I will see you next time. Until then, stay where you to, till I comes where you're at. Bye.